Like, I feel like for the majority of my life, I had my friends that I talked about justice and systemic oppression and racism and all this stuff with, and then I had my friends that I talked about Jesus with, and they were never the same group of people. And so I felt like I had a split identity because it was always like the people that I talked about that with were usually queer or were usually atheists or were usually people who had never gone to church as compared to people who like go to church all the time. And it was just always two separate conversations, two separate friend groups, two separate, parts of me. My mom was a single parent. My dad's never been a part of my life. Not at all. So she was like doing the best she could as a single parent. We went to church every Sunday, even when I had fake headaches and fake stomach aches and all that. I think it was just very much like, I pray because I'm supposed to. Like, I read my devotion because I'm supposed to. I go to church because I'm supposed to.
Me, I'm born and raised in Lancaster, California. The desert, it's hot, it's windy. And I grew up Christian as well, too. We went to church when I was like 10, and then we didn't go to church at all after that. But I always believed in God, I always prayed.
We were like really good friends for a year before we started dating, but during that year, we talked a lot about faith, and like we prayed together, and it became a thing where he would call me before school, like he would wake up early to talk to me before school. I'm a teacher. To like pray with me, and like we would pray before bed, and I was like, it started to like move something in me. So when I came to Long Beach, it's so wild to think like the difference between literally the second I walked into the garden as compared to like the years I spent at these churches with my mom, and literally from day one I was like, this is incredible.
I think our values are in the same place at the garden. We need to be in the trenches. We need to be at these with these sick people. We need to be with the homeless people. We need to be, what would Jesus be doing? And I think that's what's like so compelling to me.
And it was the first time that I felt like I had ownership over like what church could be for me, because it was like this like burden just like broke off me. I'm about to cry, but I just feel like for so long I felt like I had to choose, and there was like a piece of me that wondered if like I had a place in a church, because I was always like the crazy liberal one, or like, I was always too much for the churches that I was a part of or whatever, because I couldn't help but like question things through that lens. And like obviously since being with Emile, I'm only more passionate about it because I'm married to a black man. So to be able to be at a church who like sees him and doesn't try to say that they don't see him for his blackness, and like acknowledges that and like checks up on him when something happens in the news, like it means so much. And so I think that was when I knew like I can never leave this place unless you all go somewhere else. Then I'll just like follow you like a creep. But it was just like such a turning point for me, because it was the first time in my life where I didn't feel like I was crazy. Like whenever I was talking with people about justice, they're like, well, how could you be Christian? Or whenever I'm like talking with Christians about justice, they're like, how are you Christian? Because you're too liberal. And so it was just always like just very much like this binary, and being able to see that like for once, like people who have degrees in theology and like actually study the Bible, I read it, I don't always know what I'm reading, but like people who know what they're reading see that like Jesus is a liberator, and like Jesus loves all people, and he wants to fight and advocate for the oppressed, and like so should we. It just like validated so much of who I am and like what I've believed for so long, and that I didn't have to choose.
The garden does a great job at loving people where they're at. They make everyone feel loved, like, whether you see eye to eye or you don't. They do a really good job of like loving people where they are. 2 weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, I was at a skateboarding like protest. I hung out for a while by my car, and then left to go to the protest. Came back maybe an hour and some change later, car window broken. I'm like, bruh, but they didn't take anything. They just broke the window just to break it. I just can't ask people for money. I never would, especially it doesn't involve them. I'm just like, man, I'm gonna figure it out. We're gonna work it out. Like, it's cool. and this is how God works, because literally I was like, dang, I gotta pay this money, like quarantine's popping off, like all this stuff's happening, and people started Venmoing Brianna money. It was crazy, and literally, so like the next time I'm looking for like windows, like because I had to get it replaced, and what they quoted me was exactly the amount that Bri had gotten in her Venmo.
To the dollar.
So I'm like, you can't tell me God does not exist. It's just become a testimony for me, and it's also like increased my faith a ton. Just like it's being like I have to rely on God, because if I don't, I can't rely on my job, because that can be gone tomorrow. I can't rely on anything else in this world at all except for God, and quarantine really showed me that.